Don't claim Social Security before watching this. Social Security and when to claim is a very important decision in every retiree's life, but there are many things about Social Security that people just do not know about. There's the penalty, there's the taxes, there's what's the best claiming strategy. So what we're going to go into is what you need to know before claiming Social Security. The first one has to do with the Social Security penalty. What is this penalty? Well, this occurs if you claim Social Security while working before your full retirement age. So you cannot claim Social Security until you're 62 years old, right? Your full retirement age, for anybody who has not yet claimed Social Security, is age 67. So what happens if you retire early, let's say, you want to claim Social Security at 62, but then maybe you want to go back to work. And your whole thing is, all right, well, I went back to work, but I took a 30% pay decline, so I'll supplement that with Social Security. What's the problem with that? Well, the problem is the government only allows you to make a little above $24,000 in earned income. So this penalty, this doesn't apply to portfolio income or passive taxable income that you may have. This only applies to earned income. So how much is this penalty? Well, it's $1 for every $2 you earn above that 24,400 some odd threshold level. So if, let's say you were retired, you were making 80,000 and you said, all right, I'm going to go back to work, maybe a little bit less demanding job. I'm only going to make 50,000, but I'm going to take my Social Security to supplement that. So I'll still make 80,000, but I'm going to be in a less stressful, less demanding job. I'm only 62 years old, so what's the problem? Well, the problem is, A, at 62, you're getting only 70% of the benefit you would have received at age 67. So it's already a lower benefit. But they're then going to penalize you $1 for every $2 you earn above that 24,000 threshold. So all of a sudden, if you're making 50,000, well, they're all of a sudden penalizing you a lot and taking that away from your Social Security on what already was a lower benefit than you would have received if you waited until age 67. So I have so many people I encounter who this is kind of their plan, is to retire early, take Social Security at 62, and then maybe go back to work. But this, doesn't really work because of that exact problem. Now, when you get to age 67, your full retirement age, there's no Social Security penalty for working. So you can work, and then at age 67, you can supplement your income with Social Security, and there's no penalty. However, there still will be a Social Security tax. The Social Security tax is different than the penalty. So many people think it's one and the same, and they use the words interchangeably, tax and penalty. There's actually two separate different things. The penalty goes away at age 67. The tax does not. However, if you're age 62, you're making 50,000 in a job, you're getting 30,000 a year in Social Security. Well, guess what? Not only are you going to be penalized in your Social Security, you're also then on the remaining amount going to be taxed on that Social Security. So it's one of the things I really stress to everybody is if you're looking to retire early, you really need to sit down and either meet with someone or understand yourself how you're going to have enough income to survive and what your plan is going to be, both for living and then for claiming Social Security. So more on the tax. So let's say you didn't take Social Security early and you're living in retirement, you've got 60,000 in retirement. Or we use 50,000 again. Let's say you just got 50,000 in portfolio income. How's that going to work? Well, with the Social Security tax, it is broken down into, first there's a question, do you file married, filing jointly, or anything else? Single, head of household, married filing separately, etc. So the tables, the way they work for the taxes are pretty low. So if you are a single filer and you make $34,000 a year in taxable income, well, then up to 85% of your Social Security is then going to be taxable. That's added to your taxable income. If you are married filing jointly, that number is 42,000, or rather 44,000. So now if you're married filing jointly, it doesn't double. So a lot of people think that, like, oh, well, if it's $34,000 for a single filer, it would be $68,000 for a married couple. It's not how it works. You really don't get as much of a benefit as you would in the normal tax tables. Because in the normal tax tables, the married filing jointly tax brackets are basically just double of whatever the single filer tax brackets are. So you'd think Social Security works the same exact way. It doesn't. It doesn't at all, actually. How many times do you think these tax brackets have been adjusted for inflation? Yeah, you're right. It's zero. They've never been adjusted for inflation. So in 1985, there were a lot less people paying tax on their Social Security, so it wasn't as much of a concern. Whereas today, and really even moving forward, the more inflation accelerates, more and more people are going to pay tax on their Social Security. And this is another thing that people just don't anticipate. They think, oh, my Social Security is going to be tax-free and this and that. And then when you actually take into account how much of their net Social Security benefit is reduced, it's really a big issue. So one of the things I always like to go over with my clients and at events is like, if you have people who think, all right, well, we're a married couple, we need $4,000 a month in Social Security, oh, that's what we're getting, we're going to budget on that. What they don't take into account is after the taxable Social Security is taken into account, they're not getting $4,000 a month in Social Security. They're getting $3,000 a month in Social Security, or let's say $3,200 a month in Social Security. Now, there's all of a sudden an $800 deficit that they did not anticipate. And so they're already in retirement trying to scramble and figure out, all right, well, I thought I had this covered. I thought my budget was covered by Social Security, but now I'm hit by this massive surprise. What do I do? And that's not a conversation you really want to be having, but sometimes it is a conversation that has to be had. And so we have to sit down and say, all right, let's game plan. Let's really take a look. Let's really take a look and figure out exactly what we have to do to get you in a spot where you're going to be good to go. Now, what also comes into play are the alternate claiming strategies. So there used to be quite a bit more than there are now, but the most popular one is the spousal strategy. So let's put a graphic on the screen here. Let's say, to make it simple, because this can get a little bit confusing. Let's say you have spouse A who's getting $3,500 a month in Social Security. Spouse B is getting $1,000 a month in Social Security, right? So that's $4,500 for the household, but one spouse is getting $3,500, the other spouse is getting $1,000. We'll keep it simple. Both spouses are 67 years old. How much will they receive in Social Security? Well, if they each claim on their own record, so just regular Social Security, they'll get $4,500 for a household. Now, is that the maximum they could each receive? No, because spouse B, who is currently getting $1,000 a month, could instead be getting $1,750 a month because she can claim on spouse A's record. Well, now all of a sudden, that's an additional $750 a month that couple has at their disposal, really. And this is so important because I've seen so many situations. Like I had a couple about 2 years ago where I was meeting with them and they were saying, they're like, Tyler, we just need $500 a month extra. We really could use that. And they were already in retirement and looked at their numbers, and the husband was making $3,000 in Social Security. The wife was making $1,000, and they were like, well, we just need $500. And I didn't enjoy doing it, but I had to break it to them that if they claimed correctly and she claimed spousal on his record, they'd be getting that $500 a month from the government. And so because they did not choose the correct claiming strategy, they're now scrambling and figuring out what they got to do to get some extra income when it was totally avoidable. And those are the types of situations we really want to solve for, is avoidable situations and solvable problems. If there's a situation where it wasn't avoidable or it was, out of reach to solve, that's one thing. But if you're in a situation where you're desperate for income and it could have been avoided very easily, that's something we don't want to have happen. So think about all of these things. The last and final thing we'll go over is just a basic when to claim. So now, obviously, when we're talking about when to claim, it takes into account so many variables. What is your income? what is your longevity, what's your work situation like. But to put it into a really basic scenario, let's look at age 62 versus 67 versus 70. There is something called a break-even analysis that we will do. And that is, okay, if I wait until age 70, so that means I did not take it at 62 or 67 or any other age before that, how long will I need to live to have made more money in total from Social Security as opposed to if I would have just claimed it at 62? And so this is where longevity comes into play, because usually the number is, if you wait until 70, you've got to live until right around age 80 in order for that decision to have been profitable. And so the break-even analysis, it's not that be-all, end-all in the sense that, hey, even if you have longevity, sometimes people will need to or just want to for quality of life, claim it earlier. That's fine. But the things we really need to understand, because we don't want to have a situation where we wait to claim until 70 and then you pass away at 71 and you had a family history of that. And it's like, wow, you just threw 9 years of income in the gutter that you could have had. And that's kind of the thing I'll close on right there. Every year you don't claim Social Security is a year's worth of income that you did not receive. So many people focus on, oh, if I wait, I get a higher monthly amount. Yes, you do get a higher monthly amount if you wait, but you also have not received years worth of income in order to have that higher monthly amount. So your first year of claiming, if you wait, well, you still have money to make up on, as opposed to if you would have claimed earlier at 67, 65, or 62. So these are all things that we really want to focus on. And so that's really what we wanted to talk about today. If anybody has questions, concerns, thoughts, leave them in the comments below. We've got another link in the description and in the comments if anybody would like to hop on a Zoom call, kind of go over their Social Security situation. But for Tyler Nowotny and Saturn Asset Management, thank you for watching this video. Have a great day.